We are continuing the series, like I mentioned, called Let's Face It. It's an opportunity for us to ask and answer some big questions in life. And we've talked about origin, we've talked about identity, we've talked about meaning, we've talked about suffering. Today, we are going to be talking about the question of morality. What is right and wrong? How do we form the basis for morality? How do people conclude what is right and wrong? And again, right, in the cultural moment we are in our generation, morality seems to be a kind of a hotly debated thing. And it's not just certain issues, but we see morality coming into. Now, what is morality? Basically, how do we decide what is right and wrong? Right? That's the question, right? And it is creeping into everything. It is creeping into politics. It's creeping into medicine. It's creeping into every area of our lives. It's not just my preference. It's not just what you do, what somebody does, but we are looking at it through the lens of morality. Let me give you an example. It happened during COVID. COVID was a big, we look back at COVID, we think about some of the things, some of the decisions, and some of the ways we were looking at how to do things, how to manage life. So think of the issue of vaccination, right? In India, it's very common. India, if they give a free vaccine, we are taking the vaccine. Nobody's going to be like, no, please, I'm happy to inject me 10 times, I'm okay, right? But all over the world, there was a big debate about vaccination, right? So some people were for vaccines, some people were against vaccines. But it wasn't just a preference, okay? It was actually, it's a debate about morality. It wasn't like, hey, okay, you can do what you want. No. It was about right and wrong, okay? It became an issue of morality, okay? The whole idea of masks was not just, okay, do you want to wear a mask or you don't want to wear a mask? No. All of the world, it was a question of morality. If you don't wear the mask, you're a bad person, right? There's something wrong with you, right? And so issues became morality. And so that's the moment we live in, right? That's the cultural moment we live in. When you take care of the environment, when you recycle things, and you may be somebody who's diligent in recycling, you're not like, okay, I love the environment, I love creation, that's why I'm recycling. No, it's not just your preference, but you want everybody to do it. Right? And if people don't do it, no, man, we look at it through the lens of their morals. There's something morally wrong here, right? Yeah, with the diet, everything is now looked at through the lens of morals, right? So it's a big issue, right? It's a big issue. And of course, hotly debated things of gender, sexuality, and marriage, and all of these things, people are looking at it through the lens of morality. What is right and wrong here? Okay? Now, there's couple of quick things, right? So it is one has to do with moral conviction, the other has to do with moral obligation, right? So moral conviction means it is not just I believe it is right, and there are a lot of things where you may feel like you're from a certain culture, you're from a certain background, and you feel like, you know what, this is right and wrong, right? You have a moral conviction about things, okay? Now, growing up, for me, the time I lived in, it wasn't not long back. I'm not that old, but by the time I was back then, wearing jeans was considered a taboo. I don't know if you've been from that era, right? You can't wear jeans. You can't wear jeans to church. You can't wear jeans to work. You can't wear jeans to school or college. No. If you wore jeans, you are like the prodigal son. Something is wrong with you. Your parents have just kind of failed in their parenting. You are considered rebel, right? Especially if you enter ministry, you cannot wear jeans, right? Think of alcohol, right? Like at the south, you cannot even, you can't touch anything, right? But the north, it's a very different kind of atmosphere here, right? Every restaurant you go has a bar, but it is in the south, it's never. You can't find anything like that, right? What about tattoos? Right? All of this. So moral conviction says, no, I will not do this. I will not wear jeans. But moral obligation says nobody should wear jeans. So it's not just my preference anymore. No, this is wrong. You cannot do it. Right? Oh, no, I will not drink alcohol. No, but it is wrong to drink alcohol. No, it is wrong. Nobody should do it, right? That's where moral conviction becomes a moral obligation, right? So the question is, how do people come to these conclusions? Where do they get the basis for this? You tracking me? Right? So we're gonna slowly unlock this. And I need to confess, it will sound a little like a philosophical class, philosophy kind of thing, right? I'm an engineer. I'm going to put philosophy like as an engineer, right? I'm going to bring it into easily understandable things. But if you are from the philosophy background, you'll be looking at me and you're like, Ranjit, you are scratching the surface. This is nothing, right? There's so much more. You are right? It's only 35 minutes. But if you're not from a philosophy background, you'll be like, Ranjit, what are you talking about? And I just had a wonderful conversation with a dear friend in our church upstairs just now, 10 minutes back. I said, Eloni, let's call her Eloni. I said, Elodie, did you understand the sermon? Is there anything that makes sense, right? For Elodie. She said, Ranjit, Pastor, what is that objective? You kept using the word objective. What does that mean? I'm like, that's the first thing in the sermon, right? She completely lost it. But anyway, so, no, she's fine. I went through the whole sermon again with her, right? But hang in there. So today it is a way for you to introduce, just to bring all of this in a simple way you can understand. Right? Give you the contours of morality in the world. How do people make these decisions? And then to introduce how the Bible helps you think about morality. Right? And I'm going to tell you how biblical morality is very different. The basis is very different. And so we're going to see that. Okay? So we're going to see how traditionally people think about morality. How do modern secular culture think about morality, and how does the Bible help us understand, right? So firstly, I'm going to give you the case for divine morality, right? So traditionally, right? Ranjit, how do people conclude what is right and wrong? Right? How do people have a basis for it? Traditionally, right? 100 years back, whatever that is in societies, how did they do that? Generally, people come to the conclusion of what is right and wrong based on a sacred order, something that is higher, right? This is what I call objective, right? It's absolute, okay? So traditionally, people will say this is right and wrong because of a sacred order, because of a divine absolute standard. Okay, that is how people usually come up with what is right and wrong. And I'm not saying they are right about it. Every culture has a certain way of understanding their own divine order. Every religion has that. Every tribe has that, right? But typically, how do people come to a sense of right and wrong? They appeal to an objective standard. They appeal to an absolute moral standard, right? So that is what they do. So it is not just so this moral standard, this objective divine standard code. Is not just becomes a personal conviction for them, it also becomes a moral conviction, but becomes a moral obligation. No, they don't feel like, no, only I should live like this. No, they feel like everybody should live like this. Okay? So this divine order, this objective standard, this absolute standard is not just a personal preference or a personal conviction, but actually it leads to a moral obligation. They want everybody to live like this. Okay, so that's why decisions about marriage and gender and sexuality and human rights and dignity, all of this, every culture thinks about these things. Every society thinks about these things. So how do traditionally people come up with these conclusions about marriage and gender and sexuality and what is right and wrong? How do you treat the unborn, and how do you take care of the elderly, and how do you take care of the immigrant? All of these. How do people come to the conclusion? They appeal to a divine order. Okay? They appeal to something higher, something sacred. So they say if you follow this divine order that tells you which is right and wrong, if you follow it, it will lead to your life flourishing. It will lead to blessing. It is good karma for you, right? It will help people live well. You will go to paradise. You will go to heaven. So they appeal on the basis of something that's higher. That's called objective morality, right? That's an absolute kind of standard, right? And everybody does that. Even if the people are not religious, they also appeal to something higher. For example, the Greeks, like Plato, they appeal to what was called logos, the order of life. Confucius appealed to what was called heaven. For him, heaven was the supernatural realm. So when he was teaching about morality, he didn't say, no, do this because I'm telling you. No, he said, no, this is the supernatural realm. He was appealing to something higher, outside of us. Okay? Our culture, we appeal to dharma, right? That's the order of life. Zoroastrianism, kind of from the Middle East kind of a region, it appeals to Asha. They say this is the truth and righteousness. This is the life order, right? So traditionally, how do people base their decisions on morality? What is right and wrong? They appeal to something higher, something objective. Are you with me so far? Right? Now, but in today's culture, In modern culture, secular culture, we reject it. We're going to talk about why and all that stuff, but we reject a form of divine order. We don't believe there is anything sacred. We believe, no, humans are from atoms and molecules. We've come through the evolutionary process. Okay, there's nothing divine. There's no God who created us. Okay, there's nothing sacred here. We are all a process of evolution. We are a cosmic accident, right? We share the same DNA as earthworms, and we are evolved just like the rocks and slime, right? This is what George Johnson, who's an atheist philosopher, he says, you're an animal and you share a common heritage with earthworms. Okay, so this is what we believe, right? The secular culture, this is, there is no sacred divine order. There's nothing objective about morality. It is all subjective, right? There's nothing objective. There's no objective standard. There's no divine. There's no God. We rejected that. So we feel like, no, it is all subjective. We are just like the animals. Charles Darwin says there's no fundamental difference between man and higher mammals in their mental faculties. There's no difference. Right? Joe Merchant is another philosopher. He says we should act like the animals we are. But the question is, sometimes when children behave like animals, we tell them not to do that. They're like, no, this is wrong. Please behave yourself. Why? If we are all from animals, why can't I just behave like an animal? Right? No, because we know there is something not right. There's something not right. Right? So even though we may claim to have come from rocks and slimes and have the DNA from an earthworm, but we never, have you thought about this? We never look at a rock and call a rock as immoral. This is an immoral rock. We don't look at a chemical and say this is a corrupt chemical. We don't look at slime and say this is sinful slime. Right? We don't look at, we don't talk about donkeys as depraved donkeys or evil elephants or immoral monkeys. We don't punish pigs because they eat the young. We don't exterminate black widow spiders because they kill the males after copulation. We don't do that. We don't accuse the animals for not taking consent. No, animals are not debating morality. Right? So which means, what is this? If we have come from animals, if we have evolved like rocks and we are basically atoms and molecules, why is morality important for us? Why? So this is where people are beginning to understand, right? And even atheist scholars admit this. They are beginning to understand, they're beginning to give in to this idea that no, there is something universal here. It doesn't matter what culture you're from, what background you're from, when you live, there is a morality that is universal. Okay? There is something, when you see, and of course, there could be many ways we will look at it, but no, there is a base morality, right? When a crocodile drowns its prey and kills it, no, we don't think of anything wrong with that. But when we drown somebody in a pool of water, no, that is evil. You tracking with me, right? No, we know, right? There is a reel that went on viral, I don't know, a few years back, I think, where people were wearing masks and they will come and they will basically, when elderly people were walking on the streets, right? These are people who come with masks and they will come and punch them from the back, hit them. And they will fall on the concrete pavement and they get injured and some of them died. And these people run away. And it became like a viral kind of a thing. It was happening all over. And you look at it, doesn't matter what culture you're from, doesn't matter what age you're from, you look at it, it is repulsive. Where do you get that morality? Not from rocks, right? Not from earthworms. Where do you get it? So in some way, atheists are beginning to understand, not beginning to, they are giving into the idea, no, there is something universal, right? Because if there is not that universal, because when you look at what Nazi Germany did to the people of exterminating millions of people because they were, some they thought were from an inferior race, you hear that, you look at that, you know there's something wrong there. You look at the wars today, look at the injustice today, you look at it, you know there's something wrong there. Intuitively we know. Nobody has to tell you that. Right? Where does that come from? Where does that universal morality come from? So most atheist scholars admit that question of morality arises only in humans. Okay? This is important. Because Charles Darwin, all of them they said, no, you're an animal, live like an animal. No. Now people are beginning to say, no, you can say all that, but that's not the basis for judging. You can't judge morality if you think like that. Now, anybody can do anything. It can be subjective, right? So people are beginning to understand, no, if you are going to claim any morality, anything that's universal, anything that is good and bad in the world, if there is a sense that is shared across culture, across people, it is because morals are unique to humans. So this is the argument. This is where I'm making the case for divine morality. This is how people are concluding, right? For divine morality. They say the argument is, if there is a divine source for morality, it does not exist. If there is no divine source, if there is no higher moral code, if it does not exist, then there is no objective morality in the world. There is no universal objective moral standard in the world. But we all know that there is something objective. We all can sense it. It is universal. We know something is right and wrong. And therefore, there must be something divine. There must be something higher. Are you seeing the thing? Right? This is how people are slowly beginning to say, no, there must be something supernatural here. There must be something higher. You can call it God, or you can call it sacred, or you can call it divine, or you can call it higher power, or whatever that is. But they do recognize morality cannot be subjective. It cannot just be coming from you. It has to be from outside. Okay? All right, so that's the case for divine morality, right? We see something is universal. We know what is right and wrong, right? And that exists in all of us. We share that across culture, across time, because there is a higher standard. It's outside of us. Good? All right. Second. Now, having said that, why do still people think it's not there? How do they give reasons for that? Okay? So today in secular culture, no, we understand this. Ranjit, it seems logical, but no, people don't agree with that. They reject the idea of a divine moral code or any kind of God or anything that is sacred. No, they don't want that at all. So how do modern culture deal with morality then? What are the reasons they give? Where do they anchor the morality? Because traditionally people anchored in something higher, right? Today, where do they anchor the morality? Where do they find the basis for morality? Let me give you the reasons for it, right? So let's look at a quick illustration, right? So in Delhi, a few months back, I think, right? Maybe last year, there was a big issue about the stray dogs. Did you follow that? There was a big issue with the stray dogs. So one group, and of course, because there were incidences of the stray dogs in Delhi, biting some children or attacking elderly, and so there were groups of people who wanted to get rid of the stray dogs in Delhi. But there was another group that was saying, no, we need to care for the stray dogs. We need to protect the stray dogs. Okay. Now, both groups, of course, it went to the High Court. It's a legal case now, right? Both groups wanted something good. Both groups had the reasons. Both groups, whether you agree or not with the group, no, they had certain reasons. They cared about certain issues. They wanted some good. So both groups are coming to this issue, right? And we are thinking about how does secular culture think about this, right? What is right and wrong here, right? It is not just my moral conviction here that you need to care for dogs. It is a moral obligation. Everybody has to care for dogs. Okay? Where do we get the basis for that? Where do we get the basis for that? And by the way, please do care for the dogs. One of the beautiful things about Delhi is of course, not everybody does this, but how in Delhi the street dogs are cared for. This is very unique to Delhi, right? One of the things that amazed me when I came to Delhi 15, 16 years back was how during the winters, suddenly you see the dogs wearing sweaters. You don't know where your sweater is. You are like hunting for your sweater. But then the dogs are ready. They have the sweater. Somebody cares for the dogs and they put the sweater on, right? And they have a cozy bed and it's all with blanket and all of that. Oh man, it's wonderful, right? So it is good. Please, we have to take care of the dog. That's not a problem at all, right? But how do we land on this issue? Because two groups are fighting about this. Well, how do you know what is right and wrong? Let me tell you how secular culture comes up with their basis for morality. First one, they say morality is based on evolutionary biology. Okay? This is the basis. They say, no, no, there is nothing divine, there's nothing sacred. They've rejected anything like that. So, how does modern culture base their morality on? They say, no, it's because of evolutionary biology. They say, well, the feelings of love and sacrifice and compassion and equality, and helping others and being generous and caring for the poor, all of these feelings come from an evolutionary process. Our ancestors had these feelings. These feelings help them survive, and so these are rooted in our DNA, in our genes. So we should continue to live this way. Okay, so people make the case for evolutionary biology. This is where the feelings are from our genes. It is not something objective. It is very subjective. It is in our genes, right? So the problem with that is, right? The problem with that kind of a view is just because our ancestors did something, we are not obligated to do the same thing. Where is the obligation? Just because my ancestors lived in a certain way, I don't have any moral obligation to do it. Okay? Just because my ancestor did something, why am I obligated that everybody has to do this? Right? So this idea that morality is based on evolutionary biology in some way falls apart, because no, some of these things made our ancestors survive, but I may choose to live in a different way. I may not choose to live that way. You with me? Right? Second, how do secular culture form the basis of morality? Second way is morality is based on practicality. Okay? Practicality. It is practical for everyone to live this way. It benefits everybody. Why do we care for the dogs? It is practical, right? If we don't care for the dogs, right? If people stop caring for the dogs, tomorrow people will stop caring for the cats. People will stop caring for the trees. So we will be a society that will not care for anything, right? So it is good to care for things. We need to be a society of empathy. It benefits all of us. It will harm the ecological balance if we don't care for the dogs. Dogs keep other wild animals away. It keeps us safe. So it benefits everybody. It is making practical, beneficial sense for people to care for the dogs. And that is true. It is right. It is right, right? Again, the flip side of it is, if it doesn't make practical good for me, if I don't think it's becoming any benefit for me, why should I care for the dogs? Right? And that's the way the other group will feel. Why it's not practical good for me. Why should I do what you're saying? So appealing to something that's practicality is actually appealing to your base nature, which is your selfishness. If it benefits you, then it is right and wrong. There may be a point it doesn't benefit you, so then your right and wrong might change immediately. The way you look at decisions will change. Third one, right? First one was evolutionary biology, second was practicality, third one is morality is based on majority. Majority, right? I was just in the auto before the service. I was sitting with a couple of teens, my son and another friend. We were coming to church. I asked them, I'm going to talk about morality. Why do you think people reject some kind of divine morality? Why do you think, right? Or how do people make these decisions about morality today? One guy immediately said, no, we do what everybody does. We get our morality from everybody, what culture does. Right? So one of the reasons why, how we justify our moral decisions is based on majority, right? And so that view says, it's social consensus. What it says is, culture today thinks about animals differently, culture today thinks about environment differently, culture today thinks about people differently. There have been new conclusions made, we have new knowledge. So as a majority in society, we feel this is what is right today. This is right, and this is wrong. Okay? And that is why we live this way. So that is why there is intense debate about sexuality and gender and marriage and refugees and abortion and euthanasia, all of these things. Why? Because we feel like, no, the majority feels this way. Okay? Social consensus. But again, the problem with that is, just because majority feels that way, it doesn't make it right or wrong. You have to be very careful. Because even in our culture, there was a time when the majority felt sati was okay. There was a time when the majority felt female infanticide was okay, right? It was practiced quite a bit, right? Just because the majority feels something is right doesn't make it okay. So basing your morality on what culture thinks is not a sure way, right? And so, fourthly, morality is common sense. Okay, it's common sense. Morality is common sense. It's common sense to take care of dogs. Come on, Ranjit, it's common sense. Don't you know? Don't you know? Racism is wrong. Ranjit, it is wrong. Okay, don't you know? It's common sense. Okay, it's common sense. But the question is, if it's common sense, why is there so much debate about it? If it's common sense, everybody should know it, right? Why is there intense debate about these things? So I'm slowly helping you understand traditionally how people made the decision. I'm not saying they made the right decisions. I'm not saying they concluded the right things about right and wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm saying how did people have a basis for morality? Traditionally, they all appeal to something higher. They appeal to an objective, absolute standard. Today, modern culture rejects the absolute standard, rejects anything divine and sacred, and they root their morality on some of these things, on evolutionary biology. They root their morality on practicality or majority or common sense. Okay? They say this is what made society survive. This is what helps society work. The majority is decided, morality is decided by the majority of society, or morality is just intuitive. You tracking me? Good. This is what happens when you make an engineer talk about morality and all of that. It's all like in points, right? It's nice package, right? But it's not. It's actually it's a vast topic, and I recognize that. But I hope you are getting some of the contours here, right? And this is where, and I'm so glad you're here, and I want to introduce to you how the Bible gives a different picture of morality for us. The Bible tells us how we form the basis for morality. And if you're visiting with us, I'm so glad you're here. And I'm going to say some things that you will immediately recognize with me. You will immediately agree. And I want you to invite you in, right? Based on that, I want you to invite you to kind of consider what the Bible says about morality, right? And so lastly, I want to present to you Jesus, what Jesus offers. Jesus not just gives us the truth, Jesus is the truth. This is the difference here. Biblical morality, right? Jesus doesn't just give us, Jesus is the truth, right? And in the passage we read, verse 18, it talks about how we suppress the truth. In verse 25, it talks about how we've exchanged the truth. And constantly in that passage, it's talking about how the truth is revealed to us. We know the truth. It is in our conscience and all of these things, right? And yet we suppress the truth, right? So there is some truth that God has revealed here. So why before we jump into the biblical morality, what the Bible gives us morality, and I want us to understand, why do people reject divine morality? Why do people reject it? And I did ask the teenagers in the auto. I said, hey, why do you reject? Why do people reject it? And they did say, right, Gen Z or Gen Alpha, I don't know what they are, right? Gen whatever, some Gen. Immediately one guy said, Ranjit, it's too hard. And I understand some of you may feel exactly that. This is too hard. This is too perfect. This is too hard. I cannot, there's no way we can live up to this morality, this standard. This is impossible to follow, right? And so it's just best to just kind of abandon that and live however we want, right? So sometimes some of us feel like it's too hard and we are powerless to kind of think about right and wrong in every issue and every scenario, and we don't have the ability to do it. So some of us, not just it's too hard, some of us feels like, man, it's too restrictive. It is restricting me. I want to enjoy life. I want to do what is fun and what pleases me and my desires, and this is too restrictive. And so the best way to kind of deal with that, my conscience is all messed up when I think about divine and God and all that. So the best way to do this is kind of reject that, and I'm okay with how I live. But I'll tell you another reason why people reject the divine morality. The reason why people reject divine morality is also because of how people who claim to follow a divine morality behave. This is where the gospel is going to be different, right? Just hang in with me, right? Hang in there. Because people, any culture, any religion, any society, anybody who claims to have some kind of divine order, and they say, no, this is the supreme order, this is the supreme realm, this is the order, this is the thing, this is God, whatever that is. Anybody who claims that usually comes across intolerant towards others. They lack understanding towards others. Right? Anybody who claims any kind of divine order have a sense of superiority and bigotry in them. So people look at this and they say, no, I do not want anything to do with this. If this is what, if this morality, if this divine morality is going to produce this kind of people, I don't want anything to do with this, right? I will reject the divine order. In fact, this subjective reality, hey, your truth is your truth, my truth is my truth, let's all live peacefully. This is much more tolerant. This is much more empathetic. This is much more understanding. There is so much love here. And you are right. You are right. You are right. So for some reason, there is a divine morality, and we do recognize there's a divine morality, right? We've talked about, I've made the case for divine morality. I've made the case that subjective morality can lead to chaos. It has no foundation or anchor. So there is a case for divine morality, but then we see what divine morality does to people. They become intolerant. They lack understanding. They're oppressive. They're cruel to people. And so we reject it. So today I want to ask you, my young friend, I want to ask you, what if there is a divine morality that doesn't lead you to superiority and bigotry, but leads you to humility and charity? What if there is an option like that? What if the solution is not to just reject divine morality, because we know intuitively there is something universal, there is something moral. No, we are not from animals. No, there is something here. We understand that intuitively. What if there is a divine morality that doesn't lead to bigotry and superiority, but leads to humility and charity between others, generosity and kindness and compassion between people? Wouldn't you want that kind of morality? Wouldn't you want to base your life on something that is right and wrong and good and bad and evil and what is righteous, based on a divine morality, but that makes you humble and gracious? That is the gospel story, right? And I know you're thinking, Ranjit, but so many people who claim to know the Bible don't behave like that. You are right. You are right. Why? Because we don't understand the Bible. We don't get the Bible. We don't understand the gospel. We are simply working around a religious paradigm. It is going to make you bigotry. It is going to make you superiority. We are not understanding the gospel. And so I want to gently invite you to understand something. In the Bible, we believe at the beginning we saw how God created us. There is a good God, and He created us out of love. He created us out of love. He created us with purpose. He created us with significance. He created us with gifts and talents. He has intentionality. He designed us. We talked about how God has designed us. Just like how if I'm trying to make popcorn using a coffee machine, right? We talked about this. If I try to make popcorn in a coffee machine, no, the coffee machine is not built for the popcorn. It's going to make it soggy. It's going to be horrible. But then I go to the coffee machine, I look at the instruction manual, I see what is it designed for, what is the purpose of the coffee machine. Oh, Ranjit, it's not for popcorn, it's actually to make coffee. Then you can actually make some good coffee out of it, right? So the coffee machine now begins to live out its purpose. It's useful, it understands its meaning and significance. And in the same way, my friend, the same way, we've talked about this all through, right? When we believe that God has created us, a loving and a good God, you're not a product of divine chaos, you're not a product of cosmic accident, you are actually created by a loving God with purpose. If you will entertain that, if you will understand that, and if you will receive it, I want to give this God a chance, I want to understand this. If you will, that has a profound impact. Profound impact. It has a profound impact on your identity. It has a profound impact on your meaning. It has a profound impact on how you deal with suffering. It has a profound impact on how you think of morality. Because suddenly there is a good God, and He gives you the truth, gives us the Word of God to understand how we are created, why He created us, how we are to live. He is the designer. He is the creator. He is the truth, and He gives us the truth. But in the Bible, truth is not just a list of commands. And this is where I want you to understand. Stick with me here. Why is this different? Ranjit, every religion talks about list of truth and all. No, why is it? No, because in the Bible, truth is not just a list of commands. Truth is not a list of do's and don'ts. Truth is not a list of do this, good and bad. No. In the Bible, truth is not a philosophy. Truth is a person. Truth is a person. I want you to understand this. Jesus says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. Right, in John 1 verse 14, it says the word became flesh, right? What the truth that God has given us. God has created us with love, and God has given us his word, and it is revealed in Jesus. Right? It says the word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. And later on it says who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. In the Bible, my young friend, truth is not a philosophy. Truth is not some kind of way to live, ideas. Truth is a person. Truth is a person. It is personal. Jesus revealed truth for us. Jesus is the revelation of truth. And so, what is my moral conviction, and not only conviction, what should be our moral obligation if we recognize there is a creator who has created you in love and with purpose, and if Jesus is the one who reveals that truth to us, our moral obligation in life, our purpose, our greatest chief purpose for man is to know Jesus, is to know him, is to know him. My friend, this is what the Greeks were trying to say. The Greeks were saying, no, you have to build your life around this moral order called the Logos. And in John comes and says, no, Jesus is the Logos. Jesus is the Logos. And if you can come and know him and love him and pursue him and build your life around him, because he is the truth, he reveals to you how you have to live, what you're created for, what you're designed for. So Jesus reveals the truth in his person. He not only reveals the truth, but he fulfills truth for you. He not only reveals morality, he fulfills morality for you. And I understand when we look at divine morality, we recognize we cannot fulfill it. You with me? You recognize you fall short. You recognize, no, you cannot. No, you cannot love God this way. You cannot love people this way. We immediately recognize how sinful and wicked, how lustful, and how all of that selfish we are. We immediately recognize. So we cannot fulfill it. And this is why this divine morality in the gospel that God gives is not based on your performance. It doesn't have to be hard. It is not based on your performance. It is based on the performance of another. He was moral for you. He fulfilled the commands for you. He was truth for you. So my friend, the gospel is very different, very different. Truth is not a philosophy. Truth is a person. And truth is not based on your performance. You don't come thinking you somehow live morally. No, my friends, he lived a moral life for you because you can never live that moral life. Jesus recognized you cannot achieve this divine order. But he lived it for you. He fulfilled it for you. Listen, this is the key. When you begin to understand that you are saved and you are accepted not based on your performance, but on the performance of another, somebody else went to the cross for you. Somebody else died for you. Somebody else paid the price for you. When you recognize that, immediately, my friend, there is no superiority. You tracking me? There is no superiority. There is no bigotry. You become humble because you know it is by the grace of God. It is not because you lived a moral life. Somebody else did it at the cost of his life. Somebody else did it at the cost of his life. And so suddenly morality is a person. Morality is not based on your performance, but on the performance of another that makes you humble. And I'll tell you how biblical gospel morality changes. Gospel morality is not based on your preference. If you follow Jesus because you love him, because he gave his life for you, you recognize he is the truth that was revealed. He is the truth that was fulfilled in Jesus. And you recognize what he has done for you. And you love him and you follow him, you pursue him. Suddenly truth doesn't become your preference anymore. Because you love him, Jesus challenges you. He challenges you. There could be desires you have. There could be selfishness you have. There could be practicalities you think is right and wrong. No. Suddenly you become to follow Jesus and say, no, Jesus, I want to know the truth. Not based on my culture. Not based on what is popular. Not based on what is beneficial for me. I want to know the truth from you. Right? And so biblical morality shapes you and transforms you every day. You come and you repent. You recognize Jesus. Oftentimes I think of good and bad, right and wrong, based on how it impacts me, how it is convenient for me, how it is comfortable for me. Please forgive me. I want to live like you. I want to live like you. So biblical morality is not based on your preference. Slowly you are becoming like Jesus, the truth itself. truth itself. You with me? I hope it's making sense. I hope it's making sense. My friend, this is the invitation for you today. This is the invitation. I know if you've come here, I'm so glad you've come. I'm so glad you come. Here is maybe all your life you thought this is what Jesus says, this is what the gospel, maybe you've had a understanding or a presupposition of this, and I want to invite you gently. The gospel is countercultural. Jesus is inviting you to a certain morality based on himself. And when you follow Jesus, let me tell you, when you understand what he has done for you and when you follow him, my friends, you can have strong moral convictions. You can have strong moral obligations. Right? You can think of the world and think of people and think of creation and think of everything in the world. Think about yourself. You can have a conviction and an obligation from Jesus. You can understand that. Because he created you, he understands you, he made you. You can have a strong conviction and a strong obligation, but because it is not based on your performance and because it is based on a love relationship, this morality does not lead to superiority or bigotry. It leads to humility and charity. My friend, the gospel is good news for you. The gospel is good news for our morality. And for this generation, I can sense this generation cries out for right and wrong. But there is a revelation of the truth in Jesus, and I hope you would come and you would receive this invitation. Come and say, Jesus, I don't understand. I have a strong sense of what is right and wrong. But I want to understand what you have done for me.